Inside of Diablo Immortal, we have 7 classes to choose from, and one of the best things about this game is you could change classes at any point in time and take all of your progress with you from one class to the next. There's literally no reason for you not to try different classes inside of the game. So I decided I would bring you guys a new, refreshed tier list for 2024 of all 7 classes inside of Diablo Immortal. I'll tell you why I like them, who they're best for, and why you should try them. With that being said, since you could swap classes at any point in time for free, it's worth noting that it's probably a good idea to try them all out and see which one you like playing best. Remember, with our tier lists, an S tier means the best, and down at the D at the bottom means it's the worst. Everything in between, well, it scales. Let's dive into the first class, which is the one I'm personally playing right now, the Barbarian. So the Barbarian is the tankiest, strongest, arguably, class inside of the game. It's also worth noting that there are no bad classes in Diablo Immortal. All of them are good, but for different players and different playstyles. I personally love playing as an up-in-your-face, fast, melee, tanky style character. And for me, the best option for that gameplay style is the Barbarian, which is why I, for the most part, choose to play as the Barbarian most of the time. You're able to get fast, utilizing different skills that he has that complement speed. It's gonna just make him probably the fastest class inside of the game. He's going to be able to have different shields that we can utilize through gems and skills. He could cheat death, and he could drop a ton of damage. He's probably the best open world farmer inside of the game, really being able to just run through zones, killing the enemies as he goes through them without even having to use any special attacks, just popping skills as you go. So for open world farming, he's probably the best, and I truly enjoy playing that type of gameplay with the Barbarian. In PvP, he does struggle though. He'll get stuck inside of the Necromancer's attacks, and he will struggle trying to get to the enemies that have some range. So if you're a PvP player exclusively, the Barbarian may not be the best choice for you. But if you're someone that likes the PvE, player versus environment elements of Diablo Immortal, I think he is one of the best. With all this being said, I gotta go give the Barbarian an A tier. And guys, if you're brand new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, I put out daily Diablo Immortal videos, builds, playthroughs, news, giving you everything about all the updates. Consider subscribing to the channel so you know everything that you need to know to be the best inside of this game. And next up is the Blood Knight. I do want to say the Barbarian footage was from my character, but all of the other footage I have here today are from you guys, the community, so I want to say thank you so much for contributing your footage. This is from Cryptronic here, the Blood Knight, the newest class inside of the game. And I have to say, a very fun class. A class that really thrives on self-healing. So if you're looking for a class that is really going to be able to be a hybrid type of class, be able to attack from range, melee, have really great dash skills, and also be able to heal himself or herself while in combat, this is a fun one. I had a ton of fun when I played as the Blood Knight, and I did play as the Blood Knight for quite a few months. Being able to use so many different skills and swap them out, change what you're doing with essences, there's tons of different ways that you could build out this class. It's very good for open world farming, not as good as the Barbarian, but the Blood Knight is one of the best inside of PvP. Being able to keep range when need be and heal up himself without having to rely on bandages or without having to rely on healing stations, it's something that the other classes just don't have. You could completely build out a unkillable Blood Knight build if you want to. Now, of course, he's not going to actually be unkillable, but it will be more difficult to take him down. This is the first new class we've seen in any Diablo game in years. And they did an amazing job with it. He's like a vampire style character. Super fast, super tanky because he has that ability to self-heal, but not tanky like a Barbarian or like a Crusader where you could sit on top of a boss and just not die. So you're going to need to keep your range and things like that as well. He's also really great in game modes like the Fractured Plane, where you need to complete the Fractured Plane without dying and you had limited health, because he has that self-healing ability. The Blood Knight is just so much fun. One of the best classes inside of the game, in my opinion. And as of right now, because he's really good in PvP and in PvE, and so versatile of a class, I have to give him an S tier. Let's focus in now on the Crusader, which we were just mentioning in the previous class. The Crusader is another one of those fast and really tanky builds. The Crusader is the best support build inside of the game. So if you're like one of those healing types where you want to just heal your team and help them out through your battles in your games, maybe you'll like the Crusader. Although you can't heal your teammates, you do give a whole bunch of auras off that are going to allow them to have buffs in battles. Higher combat rating, higher attack damage that they can drop. The Crusader is the community build. Not to mention, it's the only class that can hop on a mount and then go run away, adding a bunch of speed to the build as well. There's also a bunch of different abilities and skills that you could utilize to really keep him tanky so that it's harder to make him die. He is also quite good at farming. Like the Barbarian, utilizing a bunch of those skills, running through the open world, farming can be kind of effortless. And he even is a little bit better when we're talking about PvP, playing against other people. Of course, all of the classes we're talking about here today have builds that are made for PvE, player versus the game, and PvP, which is player versus player. You're going to have different builds for each of them. But there are so many different essences for all of these classes, specifically the Crusader in this point, that allow you to do many different things inside of the game. Again, the best support build in Diablo Immortal is the Crusader. We're going to give him an A on the tier list. All right, so we're halfway through the list at this point. Why don't you go down to the comment section below and let me know what your favorite class is inside of Diablo Immortal. I'll be looking. Now let's move on to the Demon Hunter, the assassin at range. This footage was brought to us by Crystallized and running a little bit of an Elder Rift right now. This is one of the best PvP classes in the game. Being able to keep range, be fast, have evasive skills, and drop massive amounts of damage makes the Demon Hunter one of the best PvP classes in all of Diablo Immortal. It's a fast class, it's a fun class, it's an evasive class, and it's a damage dealer. The issue that we have with the Demon Hunter is it's not tanky at all. You have to stay away from that melee combat. You need to keep your distance, and you can't get right in on top of your enemies. If you do, you could get yourself into some trouble. You just don't have the HP. You just don't have the tankiness to stay alive if you get too close. So, if you're a ranged player, if you're someone that likes to keep your distance and strafe and move and really be focused in on the combat and not just get on top of your enemy and button mash, then the Demon Hunter is a great class for you to do. It's actually a quite fun class because of the movement. I actually call the Demon Hunter the ranged acrobat inside of Diablo Immortal. Farming, not quite as good in my opinion as really any of the other classes we've mentioned so far. Not that the Demon Hunter can't farm, of course, it's just not as effective as a Barbarian who you could just run around and kill all your enemies. It's a more taxing experience. You need to be more focused on what you're doing rather than doing it brainlessly with something like a Barbarian or Crusader. With all of this said, Demon Hunter is an amazing class. I have to also give this one an A tier on today's tier list. And now let's talk about the Monk. Footage brought to us by our very own Red October over in the Scrappy Echoes on the Iceburn tier server. This class is fun. We just spoke about the Demon Hunter and how it was the acrobat at range. The Monk is a melee acrobat that'll literally have him bouncing off the walls, dealing damage to enemies. A super fun class with a ton of essences that could really allow you to vary your build and even build out an extremely tanky monk. You're going to sacrifice some damage to go into that tankiness, but you could really be versatile with your builds. With this said, when we think of tanky, when we think of just getting up in the battle, standing in one spot, button mashing attack to take down enemies, you're really going to want to go with more of a Crusader, more of a Barbarian. The Monk is good, but you have to be a little bit more involved with your movement and actually moving yourself around the combat, because that's what the Monk is. That's how he's built. It's a palm sweaty type combat that you're going to be focusing in on. With this being said, farming as well, it's not difficult with the Monk, but it's going to be a more attentive experience for you. It's not going to be a brainless effort as it is with some classes that we mentioned earlier. This is one of the most hands-on, exciting classes to play. It's also one of the more difficult ones to play that takes a lot more for learning curve. So with all of this in mind, putting it all out there, although the Monk is so much fun, it does lack in some other areas. And because of that, I'm going to give it a B tier. Now let's discuss the Necromancer. Very different from any other class in Diablo Immortal. The Necromancer relies on summoning the dead to fight for it. And that's what makes the Necromancer so much fun and so different. One of the best farming classes in the game. You could literally sit in an area and keep spawning all of your pets to do the work for you. Then you could just run around and collect all of the rewards. The Necromancer also is amazing in PvP with all of its stun lock abilities, making it difficult to actually have combat against the Necromancer. With this being said, it's a glass cannon. You really don't have a lot of HP as the Necro, so you have to keep your distance, and you need to rely on all of your spawned enemies, all of your spawned dead, to fight for you and to protect you. Now, with this being said, the Necromancer is one of my personal favorite classes inside of Diablo Immortal. If right now, from Barbarian, I were to switch to another class, it would be to the Necromancer. And being a class that's extremely versatile, extremely fun, and different than any other, it really is one that's desirable for many people. This Necromancer footage is brought to us by Killin' Crazy and the earlier one from Evil Dead, but it's time to throw it on the list. And I really do love this class. I think you could do everything with the Necromancer. It's another one that's going to get an S tier on the list today. And the final class in Diablo Immortal to discuss here today is the Wizard, the biggest glass cannon inside of Diablo Immortal. The Wizard is a ranged class, like the Demon Hunter, but quite a bit slower, less agile, and less tanky. Not that the Demon Hunter is tanky at all, but the Wizard is even less. Now, of course, we can use and create different builds. We can create builds of wizards that are very fast, very versatile, and have great movement. But we can also be kind of stagnant with a lot of the more popular skills with the wizard. That means that when you're utilizing those skills, you're not able to move strafe. You're basically stuck in one spot. In PvP, the Wizard is quite good, a very good class that drops a lot of damage. Again, not very tanky, so you need to be careful, but can drop damage like the best of them. In the open world farming, the Wizard is okay. Not the best class for farming. As you could see, you have to run around and actually pay attention to what you're doing, and it's not a difficult thing, but it's not the most efficient either. The Wizard class is not my favorite, but many people do really enjoy it and see the benefits that the class has to offer. So with this being said, mostly because of the amount of damage that a Wizard can deal, I have no choice but to give it an A tier on the list. So now that we went over all of the classes, it's worth noting that they're all good. They all have their positives, they all have their negatives. You need to find out what fits you the best. What type of player are you, and what type of combat are you looking to engage in inside of the game? Then, try out the class that fits it best. Play it for a week, unlock a bunch of essences, look at some build guides on the channel and see some of the best ways to build out that class. And then if you don't like it, take all your progress and class change to a different class. Nothing lost, no time lost, and you just get to experience the game in a different way. I hope this tier list helped guide you through your initial stages inside of Diablo Immortal, or is just enjoyable for you to watch. And I hope to see you back here tomorrow with my next Diablo Immortal video. So remember to subscribe.